Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Supp Talk Radio. Today, we go back to the roots of what this brand was built on, interviewing and talking with the young and upcoming companies that have great products that you, the listener and consumer, should know about. Today, I'm speaking with Matt of Soul Performance Nutrition. Matt, welcome to the show.
Sean, thanks for having me here. I'm excited.
And Matt, I know this is nothing new to you because I know we talked offline. You've done some podcasts yourself. I know sometimes you're in the driver's seat, but hopefully you'll be okay with me in the driver's seat tonight.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Anything goes. So whatever you're looking to know.
So Matt, I always like to start off with, tell us about yourself. I maybe start off as a teenager. Were you an athlete? Were you just the normal guy? Kind of walk me through that genesis.
Yeah, we'll start at like high school time frame, and we'll say I was an athlete, but we'll pull that loosely. So I participated in track, so I ran track in high school, but I
Okay.
was never like a crazy athlete by any means. I just kind of did it because I had some friends on the team, and it was kind of a camaraderie thing, if anything else, if you know what I mean. So
Yep.
wasn't over the top, but that's kind of what got me into training because before there was no like the thought of like training for something. Didn't really have a concept of that. You went out and you played with your friends, you played tag, especially when you're younger, you're running around the woods all day or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But then you get into structure, you get a coach and he's got having you training and actually like kind of starting to think about nutrition and things like that. So that's kind of how I guess I got into more structured physical activity and kind of getting into maybe like the training thing and even the stuff I do now and how that's extended into the future. But that was kind of my high school time frame and how I maybe where some of my active base came from.
What was your specialty in track and field?
I ran the mile.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
And what was your best time?
I don't, somebody asked me that not too long ago because I just got off of a ultra marathon last week. There was a Burning River
Really?
100, so I was going for a 100-mile ultra attempt. I made it 62, 63 miles about before like my one hip flexor basically gave out on me. But that's kind of what I do these days. Is the endurance bug has got me somehow, and I kind of do like a weight training on X amount of days, and then I'll go outside and get these long runs in. But that's what I've been up to lately.
So are you a glutton for punishment ultra marathon?
The crazy thing about it is, and that one thing I discovered with it as I go through these trainings. So I live in an area. I'm from Ohio, but
Okay.
live in an area where it's easy for me to get access to like the trail system, the local system here, where you can kind of be outdoors and stuff like that. And the thing I kind of realized is I stopped running with headphones in. I stopped running, with my cell phone, and with, I work a full time job as an engineer. I have a
Okay.
newborn son, and with a business, with social media, you kind of realize you're plugged in 24/7, and like you never
Yeah.
escape it. Even when you want to, like say I'm in my basement trying to get a quick workout in, and you get a message from somebody, it's like you just can't break away from it. So the thing I really discovered that I liked is during these runs, I'm outside, I'm running the trails, but you can't like run and look at your phone simultaneously. You just you just
Sure.
you just can't do it. Especially when you're running through trails, you don't want to trip over some twigs or rocks or whatever. But I just found like my mind kind of like opened. Like there's nobody talking to me. I'm not on my
Yep.
phone. And it was just a way that I can almost and again, like I think people get confused with like they'll hear, man, that dude just ran 20 miles today. What is he thinking? How is he even doing that? I'm not. I think people get confused with like a 1 mile sprint and like a 20-mile like jog. Like
Yep.
that's like how I like to describe it. So I'm not like when I get home, I'm not like obliterated. Like I can't even move the next day. It's more of like, hey, I need to recover from this so I can go out and train
Yep.
again the next day. So it's more of almost like I don't want to say a therapy, but a way to kind of break away from the day to day and really get in your mind and think about some creativity stuff that you just wouldn't think of normally. And I found a lot of like kind of solace in that. So that's what I liked about it. And the kind of the runs are again, I guess maybe that's going back to structure. So if I put something on the calendar, so I had this thing that I knew I was training for this year,
Yep.
it's kind of like accepting the inevitable. It's like, all right, this thing's coming up. Either it goes horribly or I have to build a training plan and get to this thing. So I've got something out there. I have to. again, accepting the inevitable. It's coming whether I want to or not. So I have to train for it. I got to set up a plan to, hopefully I finish this or whatnot. But I think that's why I like it.
Is ultramarathon 52 miles, or what's the actual length on that?
I think it's technically anything over a marathon is an ultra marathon. So 27 miles would technically be an ultra marathon. So then it just goes on to whatever from there. However far you want to go, you can probably find a race out there.
So now okay, so how do you train for that? Meaning, because I have a friend that runs marathons, and she had heard and she subscribes to that if you can run 18 or 19 miles comfortably, that extra 6 or 8 miles really makes no difference. So it's like if you train going 18 miles, that extra makes a difference. So I don't know if you had in your mind, if I can do, 20 miles X amount, I can definitely go the distance. That makes sense?
Yeah, you definitely don't, or at least that I would agree with that. When I trained, I don't go to I'm not doing like 100-mile day. That's just it's
Yeah.
almost insane. I'm sure there's some people out there that do it, but really I started out in, let's say, like May time frame. I'd run 6 miles that week. So that
Yep.
whole week, 6 miles total. And then
Okay.
maybe the week after, maybe 6 miles again. And then week after that, maybe 8 miles. So I'm like, doing little jumps up until about 3 weeks out before this event. I'm up to 80 miles a week. So those
Wow.
are 20-mile days. Those are 25-mile days, back down to 6-mile days, and just trying to, but it sounds insane. Like when people hear that, and I want to emphasize, like, if everyone ever wants to do something like this, I'm not like a super athlete. I'm your average guy.
Yep.
So it's possible. It's a cool thing to do because you get done with it and you're almost like, I can't even believe I'm recovering from this.
Yep.
And I'm just, I'm not doing anything special. I'm just going through a training plan that I kind of set up myself, and you get there.
Do you know, you might or might not, do you know a gentleman by the name of Spencer Lynn? He works for COS.
I wouldn't say I know him well, but he's on a forum that I'm kind of in as a
Yep.
part of as well. And I know he's kind of into that as well. So I gotta connect with him at some point.
Yeah, he's really, because he did one like in March and was expecting it. He did very, very well. He finished it, but he said that night it snowed and dropped like
Oh, wow.
single or double degree digits, that he couldn't get his shoes untied. And I think he said, I forget what the numbers are. Give it, and I apologize, Spencer, if you're listening. It was like 30 people started, and I don't know, like 8 people finished or something
Oh, wow.
ridiculous. So, but I give him all, I give you as well. I mean, obviously, anybody that's doing exercise to better themselves, everyone's got their levels. If someone's doing 5 miles, kudos to them. Like yourself doing 25, 30, 40 miles, kudos to you as well.
Yeah, I would echo the same thing. And I think the race day, another thing I want to emphasize there, and there's a lot of stuff you do to prepare for the race day, but kind of like I was saying with you're not on your phone or anything like that. When it comes down to race day, you just can't escape the fact that at some point it's going to hurt.
Yes.
So 30 miles in, 40 miles in, it's going to start hurting. There's something that happens in your brain where this is the experience I've had, because I did a similar race to this last year. It was only 50 miles, but still I wasn't prepared. So every time that pain sets in at some point, but that pain sets in, and I think there's things, again, you're on your phone, there are all these things, but there's things that maybe you should be dealing with that you've suppressed in your thoughts.
Yep.
When you're in pain, when you're emotionally broken down and you just want to quit, you just want to walk off the course, those things come up. And I think that's a way for people to deal with them, or to work those things out in your mind, or have clarity that you just would normally never get to. Is that a
Yep.
healthy way to do it? I don't know, but I've found experience where I leave a race and I get home and I just feel so content and so clear. Like, okay, here
Sure.
I know what I'm doing now. And I don't know. I've found it just seems insane when you think about it. When I try to explain it to people, they just hear that massive number. But I think there's the experience you can get out of it, and the things you can learn from yourself in that process. I'm sure, like you just mentioned, like you're going through something now with bodybuilding. I don't have a ton of experience with that, but I know, like, the diet aspect of that is something I just wouldn't
Yeah.
want to deal with at all. I mean, I'm sure people go through like a very similar journey with that, but like you said, anyone that goes down a path to try to better themselves or hit a goal, you're going to learn something about yourself. And
Exactly.
you'll pick up habits or positive aspects that you can carry with you probably for the rest of your life.
So after a race, tell me, do you do anything for external health, whether it's ice baths or cryotherapy, massages? What do you do to keep the outside of the body kind of tip-top shape?
The thing that I've found, might seem counterintuitive, but I've noticed if I sit, I will cramp up so hard, not cramp up, but be so stiff that like I can barely move. It just like,
Sure.
getting out of the bed, it just takes you 5 minutes to basically get out of that crippled position. But if I kind of like, okay, I'm home, I'm gonna go force myself to get something out of the mailbox. I'm gonna go force myself to like physically make something for dinner. And
Yep.
I'm on my feet picking something up off the floor. I've kind of it sucks and you hurt, but you can kind of maintain looseness that I
Sure.
think like kind of going through ranges of motion that are like a normal life. I found like really help accelerate it definitely helps you feel looser than you probably should be, but I feel like I
Yep.
recover way faster doing that. But besides that, I don't really do anything too special.
Do you feel like you're 90 the day after though? How long does it take you to recoup after something like that?
You definitely feel like you've like lost a gear. Like you just
Okay.
like what happened the other day. So I ran that Saturday, and then I was by this time I wasn't doing a whole lot of weight training because everything I was like, I don't want to be doing squats and going through some brutal squat
Sure.
workout and then not being able to get log those miles the next day. So I wasn't doing a ton of gym time. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go out and just do a bench day because that's
Yep.
all upper body and not to worry too much about my legs there. And I could tell like just I had like 135 pounds on the bar and it was going up, but I was like, man, I just don't have that extra gear. Like the force was it just
Yep.
wasn't there. I just felt like the tank was depleted. So I felt relatively normal until I started doing things like that required some effort. And you can tell like, man, I have a tap that was just drained. So
Yep.
by now, I just trained a little bit yesterday and I felt totally fine. But I'd say like probably a good week, you start to sort of feel normal again.
So do you have one upcoming, or did you just finish one, or?
So that was that it's either last week or week before last week,
Oh,
the
wow, okay.
July 29th. So whatever that was, I think that might have been last week. But yeah, just had that then, and I don't know if I'm gonna do another one that long this year, but probably I'm going after that one again next year. So I'm going for it.
Good for
Can't
you.
let I can't let that one go.
And you mentioned congratulations, you had a baby. What, do you have a
Yep.
boy or girl? You didn't mention.
Boy,
Congratulate first one?
first one. Yep.
Congratulations. So how's that changed your life upside down, or have you been okay?
That's been a journey as well.
Yep.
It's I think you adapt. In the beginning, it was certainly like, wow. I knew it was going to be hard going in. My wife knew it was going to be hard going in, and you just have like, again, like an overload of stimulation of, wow, how. I think it's the sleep deprivation. I mean, that destroys you for
Of
sure. Like,
course. Coffee on tap 24/7 and
yeah,
when I had kids.
I think, especially in the beginning, I think that's really what does it is you kind of have to like, all right, what routine do I have to get in here to kind of re-normalize myself almost in the beginning? I'm not sure you really can too much
Yeah.
right when you start, but I think it's the sleep deprivation that makes you feel so drained. It's like a different type of drain. You just feel like there's almost no hope at some point. Like, am I ever going to pull myself out of this? Yeah.
Like, I always tell new fathers, right or wrong, that obviously the mother or the wife always gets the brunt of it. I mean, brunt, like, not in a negative, but let's face it, it's mommy.
Mhm.
So as I say, if you can, take the child out, go to the mall, let your wife sleep for 2 hours, send her out for mani-pedi, massage, like, make sure that she gets her own, like, quality personal time,
Oh yeah.
like, away from everything.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah. So so obviously you're an athlete. I would say I call you an athlete because I think anybody that does what you do, I consider you an athlete. I'm going to put you on pedestal a little bit here.
All right.
Um, let's move into the company here. Soul Performance Nutrition.
Yeah.
When did you guys open shop?
So that was about, let's see, 2020 is when the company I think officially started, and I think
Okay.
2021 it was when the first product actually launched. So um, we'll get into like what why I kind of started and kind of what led me to some of the decisions I made. Back into high school. So this is kind of pre me running track.
Yeah.
My father passed away my first week of freshman year of high school. So
Oh wow. Okay.
at the time, I didn't really know how to compute that or even know what to do with that. But like, that kind of weighed on me for a long time. I'm a youngest of my brother and sister by a decent margin, so my parents are a little older. So I kind of grew up with family members passing away a decent amount. But when it was my
Okay.
own father, it was that it was just different. That was very
Yeah.
personal, and that's somebody close, obviously, that you spend your life with. So that was like definitely weighed on me. So a couple years go by, and I'm kind of thinking about my mom has always been very healthy, and you know health has been at the forefront. There's always been vitamins and things like that around the house. Now we're into like college, and then my brother, who also seemingly healthy, normal guy, he has leukemia. So he gets
Oh,
diagnosed with
geez.
leukemia, and then I'm starting into college. I think I'm sitting around, and I'm not unhealthy by any means, but like I don't know if I'm making the best as a freshman in high school or
Of
college. I don't know
course.
if I'm making the best choices. I'm eating a bunch of junk and this and that, and I start getting kidney stones. And I'm like,
Oh,
what in
wow.
the hell is going on here? So that I think that's like that was when it hit like, okay, what is happening? And like these, my brother is really young. My father, he was only in his early 50s. And
Okay.
I'm a freshman in college. I'm like, something's not right here. So,
Sure.
what's going on? So that's where I turn to, like, looking at all kinds of different sources of how do I need to change up my diet? What are these things I need to think about? And I kind of literally like 180 my entire life. So I started eating different. Um, I think the paleo diet was like super popular at the time. So I went real
Okay.
deep into that, learned about keto, learned about all this stuff. But like I felt significantly better, significantly different. So
It's very admirable. Sorry to cut you off. It's very admirable because at 18, 19 years old, let's face it, we're all invincible. That's the last thing we're thinking about. I want to go out have pizza, go have a six pack, whatever. But it's very admirable that you're looking internally, like automatically analyzing what's going on in your world.
yeah, I mean, I was just thinking to myself, like, I guess you're searching for solutions almost because it's like,
Yep.
okay, these things are happening and they're like traumatic, and this is almost like a first sign of, or I don't know if it's like a little mini sign or a little something that hit me, but it was like you got to do something because you're next. Is almost like what I was thinking.
Sure.
Um, so fast forward, that's kind of like my thing in my head now. So I'm eating super clean. I'm doing still exercising, all this stuff, and I kind of get to going through, I guess, rest of college and things like that. And I've taken all kinds of supplements like greens and things, but I was buying greens way back in because I know they're real popular now. But Green Vibrance was a product that I think they
Oh,
still
yeah.
make today.
Okay.
I bought that probably still back in like 2011. So I've been buying that for years
Yep.
until I came out with kind of my own version that I like. But um, then, pre workouts and all that stuff I was taking. Then I kind of I graduate, I get a job, and I always was interested in supplements. Like I mentioned, I was buying them, always had vitamins and things like that. But my
Sure.
thought was always like when you walk into GNC and you see like a BSN bottle on the wall. Well, BSN is not a good example because they actually own their own stuff. But let's
I know
say
some people are going to say, what's BSN? But anyway.
yeah, they were huge at the time. Ronnie
Yes.
Coleman, BSN. Let's
Yep.
see, what's Jay was Muscle Tech. I mean, those were the two brands. I mean, that's what
Sure.
everybody loved. But let's give another example, like
Cellucor?
Cellucor. So, well, I think Nutribolt's pretty big. Who else would be? I'm trying to think of somebody smaller. Well, we'll just say me, for example. So
Okay.
if you see my product on the shelf at GNC, which I'm not there, but if you see my product on the shelf, I thought to me, oh, these guys have a facility. They have all this mixing equipment, and they're making that. So
Yep.
if you wanted to make a supplement, you need $50 million. Like that's the only way you do it because every single one of these guys that sells a product in here, they all have all this giant mixing equipment and they all have all this stuff.
Yep.
So that was what was at like kind of the forefront of my head through forever. And then I don't really even know how I came across it, but I sort of realized like, oh, that's not how this is done. Like there's probably a good 10-15% of the brands that, okay, them or their parent companies are made by themselves, or they
Yep.
make some of these sub brands, but then there's all these contract manufacturers that they would make, hey, I'm going to bring my recipe to you. They'll source all the ingredients, or you can source them. We'll blend it, bottle it, and send it out to you. So I kind of learned that. I've been, like I said, I'm an engineer now, but at this time I was an engineer for probably about 9 years. So I have all this quality background on what we do there, what we look for documentation wise, and said,
Yep.
this is something I'm going to investigate. What does this cost? What's it take? How do I make a supplement? So
So what type of engineer, Matt? Chemical or manufacturing?
mechanical.
Mechanical.
So
Okay.
yeah, so I'm in the commercial vehicle industry, so semi
Got it.
trucks and things like that.
Okay.
So I'm going to go down the path of how do I make a product, I guess, for myself. And that's what I did. I just looked up a bunch of contract manufacturers, but I had a list. I knew ahead of time. I was like, what what are the so like when we make something, it usually adheres to some kind of standard, like an ISO
Sure.
procedure or this or that. So I'm like, what's the thing for dietary supplements? And that's one of them is CFR 111. That's a FDA requirement. So you hear a lot of people say like, dietary supplements aren't regulated by the FDA. Well, they are actually heavily regulated by the FDA. They might not be enforced heavily, but the
Bingo.
regulation on supplements is actually very heavy.
Yes.
So they're to the extent that they're almost more regulated than pharmaceuticals. Why I say that is pharmaceuticals, you have to have a established method to produce a product.
Mm-hmm.
So when you make a whatever Advil, they have to have a method that says we made this, and as long as your method is established, they don't have to verify every single lot that they make.
Yep.
It's not true with a dietary supplement. Every single lot that you make, you have to verify the label claims on that. So I kind of did all my background work on, okay, what does that all entail? What's all the legality behind it? And then I started searching out manufacturers, but I had like a list of, what's compliant, what's legal. I kind of wanted to know all that stuff before I started
Sure.
talking to them. And then I asked a pretty wide range of questions, what's in your facility? Do you have compliance to NSF? Do you have any FDA violations? Kind of a litany of things. And I would ask, like, even ingredients that I know they shouldn't have. Do you have this? And if they would
Mm-hmm.
say yes, immediately no. Um,
Were some of
so,
them surprised though? Did you get flack on some of them? Like, who's this guy asking this million and one questions?
oh yeah, like some either like would not really answer my questions at all. It was
Yep.
probably they would see something on there and uh, part of what I was asking they didn't like, but then other ones would kind of go through the whole list and tell me everything. So
Yeah.
that was good. So I had probably conversations with maybe 6 to 8 different ones in the beginning, and then I kind of ended up with the manufacturer I ended up with in the end.
Okay.
But I still was kind of okay. Now I've got a manufacturer that I feel like I can trust. But like again, I'm just the guy. I'm not an expert in making dietary supplements. So I'm like,
Sure.
who can help me through this process that like again I can trust. Maybe I'm gonna have to pay them, but who can help me through this process? And that's when I found I don't know if you're familiar with Oliver, but he runs the Banned Substances Control Group. And they're
No.
basically like a third party test facility. I think they're based out in California, but they'll go
Okay.
into a facility. They're extraordinarily well versed in Oliver's father, Don Catlin, was actually created like a lot of all the anti-doping stuff originally for like
Okay.
Olympic athletes. So they basically took all that knowledge and applied it to dietary supplements. And they look at again, they'll go into a facility and ask any question that I wouldn't know to ask, like
Yep.
how are your products stored related to like the climate in the facility? What are they next to? What's the, all these like little fine questions
How
that
often the
I
machines are clean, probably all that good stuff.
yeah, stuff like that. So they'll do that. They'll also test your product. So every single lot, basically, what I'm signed up for is what they call the BSCG certified drug free. So
Okay.
they test every single lot that my manufacturer produces. They'll put a lot number on their website and say this one is free of 600 plus banned substances. It
Okay.
meets CFR 111. It meets all the test requirements. The label claims they can verify that the tests match what they should for a test. So they'll look at the test results and make sure that they
Okay.
make sense. If they're the ones not doing like let's say my product has potassium or something in that, and I test that, they'll look at the test and say, yep, that looks valid, or they'll repeat it themselves out. And if I pay them to do it,
Okay.
what else do they do? They do quite a bit. So I leaned on them a lot in the beginning to say, I don't know what I don't know. And
Sure.
I feel comfortable now when I offer a product to the public, like, hey, it's at least safe to the nth degree that I could possibly make it to. Because that was one of the things I learned in the beginning was, if you get into a facility who's willing to bring in some of these banned substances, or not even banned substances, like drug products and things like that, that's not it's not that I necessarily have something against those ingredients, but it doesn't meet it's not legal. It's not
Of
legal
course.
manufacturing process. So not that there's a huge issue with that. It's more so if they're willing to break that law and
What
put
else?
that product on the market, what else are they willing to do? Are they cutting corners on quality? Oh, I'm sure they're the highest quality place because everybody says they're the highest quality place. But if they're willing to go against the FDA, and if they come in basically be willing to have their place shut down, I'm willing to bet that they're willing to make some pretty big risks, and I'm not
Yep.
willing to go take the fall for that.
So the cost of having your products tested, is that baked into your manufacturer, or do you pay like separately to this independent party?
It's separate.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we'll run a product. You pay based on the ingredients in there, and obviously based on the lot size that you run.
Sure.
Then whatever label claims I want tested, there'll be a cost for that. Heavy metal testing, mold and microbial, which a lot of people are like, "Hey, we're testing for mold and microbials." Well, the law says everybody should be doing that, so it's not very
Yep.
special. But heavy metal, mold microbial, label claims, and then so you pay for those tests internally, and then externally, that's a completely different fee, completely different everything. It's like
Has
two different.
anything ever come back? Kind of, I'm gonna say suspect. Maybe that's right or one word.
No, luckily nothing has not,
Awesome.
because I again like what do you do? Like,
Yeah.
uh, I think that goes to show I kind of handicapped myself, especially in the beginning, because it took me, like I said, I started in 2020 and I didn't launch anything till about mid 2021. Just took forever to find what I thought was a quality manufacturer, set up all the stuff, do all the
Yep.
like inspections and this and that. So I feel like I've either lucked out doing that and did my due diligence, and I know, granted, I'm paying more for my raw materials than I would somewhere else, but I feel confident that, again, like you said, like what if something comes back? Well, I've got, well, I don't know, 5,000 units of something sitting somewhere, and it comes back with a spike on some kind of S6
Yeah.
stimulant in there. What am I going to do with that? Especially like, I have all my products identified as banned substance free on my website. Oh,
Yep.
well, how come all your sub products are banned substance free except this one? Oh, well, that one, it
Yeah.
came back not good. Like, so how do you explain that to somebody? So luckily, no, I've never had that issue.
And again, as you said, you're paying a little bit more, but you have the peace of mind.
Yeah.
So you physically open doors in 20, I'm gonna say open doors, obviously, 2021 in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
So what was that like? I mean, were there sales? Were you happy? Or was it kind of like,
So, that's why I think I started was, maybe the other thing to say is I, you think, can you start your own company? For a lot of people, that's like a huge risk. And for me, I guess it's still a big risk because you're investing a lot of money into it and you're working
yep,
with, constant huge amounts of inventory and customers and things like that. But when we were under work from home, I'm working at home every single day. And I think that was one of the light bulbs that went off in my head was, it's too difficult to have a job from home. How are you going to do anything? You're not in an office. But then I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, so I'm working from home, doing the exact same job I was doing before. We're still having all of our meetings. We're still doing stuff with suppliers. The supply chain's still running,
yep,
and it's like nothing changed. So I was like, oh, I guess you can run a business from home with not that much trouble at all.
yep.
And that's really what kicked it off.
So I get. So what was the first product you came out with?
So the first one I came out with, it's called Electrolyte Endurance Powder.
Sure.
It's like an electrolyte product. Again, I talked about like doing a lot of endurance training and stuff like that. A
Yep.
lot of the products in the endurance space have a lot of sugar in them, a lot of carbs in them, and they have,
Mhm.
good electrolyte sources and things like that. I don't see that as a negative thing because when I just did my ultra, those are all the products I used. But like, say I'm going out for a 5 mile run, I might not want 40 grams of sugar just to go out for a 5 mile run. Like, I don't necessarily need that.
Yep.
And I kind of looked at like, well, there's a lot of products in them or ingredients in the market, like let's say Pico 2, Synactive, Elevate ATP, laundry lists of ingredients that you can throw out there that you just don't see from, we'll call it the sports nutrition space that has all these, unique ingredients in it. You don't see any of that stuff in the endurance space. So I was like, well, can I mesh these together somehow? So it
Yep.
was meant to be kind of like a light on the stomach drink, something you could take and basically not feel weighed down. So you don't
Sure.
have a bunch of carbs, a bunch of things like that. Something you can take and you kind of have the perception of energy because you get a little bit of cellular energy, but you don't have the carbs that go along with it. So that was kind of the first product.
Did you already have a demographic in mind, or is it like I'm just going to kind of respectively shotgun it and see what feeds in, and then kind of filter it down?
I truly make stuff for me even to this day.
Okay.
So like when I come out with a product, it's something like I truly believe in. It's for me. I don't necessarily have like I know you're supposed to have a demographic and an age and this avatar that you're building this product for, but I'm like, you know what? I really like this product. I'm gonna make it and see if somebody else likes it. And if they kind of jive with that, cool. If not, then cool.
Okay. So that obviously does well, and it opens up the doors for more products, I assume.
Yep. Yeah, so that does well. I think that's I've kind of explained that or make that story right there. Like, hey, here's the products I believe in, here's the quality behind them, and here's the approach I take to stuff. I think that people like that
Yep.
aspect of the company, and like, here's why I'm coming out with something. Either you like it or you don't. And yeah, it's opened the doors to other products. The second one was a greens product, so I was still taking a lot of different greens, but even green vibrance up until then. But there was one I wanted to add in, a bunch of extra botanicals, again, some of these sports nutrition ingredients. So that was the second one that came out.
Yep.
The third one, now we're starting to get pretty close to my son being born or my wife being pregnant. So I'm like, okay, what's going to support me in like this stage of life? And this is a sleep supplement.
Of course.
Um, and I was like, I'm probably gonna be taking this a lot, maybe even every single day. So I'm gonna pull melatonin out of it. So it's a melatonin-free sleep aid.
And
It's
why is that? I want to cut you off, Matt, because I did want to ask that because melatonin's in, again, percentage, maybe 80% of the products. What
oh
was
yeah.
your thoughts on not putting it in?
So I wanted something that if I wanted to take every single day, and this is the comment I get the most on this product. This is one of the top sellers. This and my joint product. It's not even when you take it, I don't know if you get the huge perception of I'm falling to sleep. The whole point of the product isn't it's not a sedative at all.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a weird sensation. You might feel a little relaxed before you go to sleep, but it's more once you are asleep, it's actually supporting sleep itself.
Got
So a
it.
lot of people will be like, I woke up really refreshed, not like kind of in a fog or sort of like they're trying to escape like the sleep aid.
Yep.
That was the sensation, like, I didn't want people to have, or really, I didn't want myself to have, so that was the kind of the genesis or the thought process behind creating that.
Because I know with some people, it's funny because I'm an advocate of melatonin. I take a good sleep aid maybe 2 or 3 days a week. I try not to overuse it too much. And with some, I feel like the melatonin goes through me. And I've heard this with other people where it's like you get a 2 hour nap and then
Mhm.
you're back up again. And then I've seen other versions where it's kind of a time release and
Yeah.
everything else. But yeah, so do you ever does it ever go against you by not having melatonin?
I mean, I'm sure there's some people out there that like that melatonin sensation, that big hit, and I'm totally with you. Like, I'm not against melatonin at all.
Yeah.
I really like the ingredient, and I think it's probably misunderstood even. I mean, it's a
Yep.
great antioxidant. It's great for brain health. There's like all these things that I think these certain ingredients get put into like gutters.
Yeah.
Fish oil, that's for your heart. That's what it does. Citrulline, it gives you the pump, and that's what it does. Melatonin, it puts you to sleep, and that's what it does. These ingredients have wide ranging applications, and that's another thing I
Yes.
try to look at when I'm formulating stuff. What can I take from, hey, this is usually associated with this, but actually use it in a way that benefits maybe a different category. That's a lot of the thought process I try to go through.
I'll tell you what I really like, because you have Zalaria in it. And I know
Mhm.
Zalaria sometimes gets overlooked. That's such a great ingredient.
Yeah, I really like Silaria. I tested that a lot out in the beginning. We have it's called Silaria V2. They went through a reformulation actually at New Live. Um, there's Xylaria V1 was all Xylaria nigrapes extract, so all mushroom extract.
Yep.
It went to a V2 that has basically three different ingredients. I think it's Cascuda, Xylaria, and what's the other one? Maybe chestnut rose or Panax ginseng, probably that New Live's always doing that. I think that's the combo.
Okay.
But anecdotally, it's almost like twice as strong as it was before. So the product originally had a gram in it, and when they went to V2 and I tested it out again, I said, you know what, it actually works even better, but I'm still going to leave it at a gram. So, yeah, it has a gram of Xylaria. I really like that ingredient. So I think that's another one that gives you kind of stress relief, brain kind of health, but also
Yep.
aids sleep. So I think it's kind of a good multifunction ingredient.
And there's nothing in there that seems to be habit forming, at least what I'm looking at, which is good.
No, I'm big on how do these products, like, again, you get melatonin is associated with sleep. So this product here associated with sleep, but how does that affect the rest of your day? So like,
Yep.
let's get you relaxed, actually support sleep, and then wake up to enjoy your day. Same with like the electrolyte or something like that. Like you don't feel weighed down. You're hydrated and you're on to your next thing. Like I don't want any like negative, like a pre-workout that's got so much stimulant, so much like stuff in it that you have a great workout, but your workout's over and now like your almost brain is so fried you don't want to do anything the rest of the day. I'm here to kind of support your lifestyle. I want to have a good day. I want to have fun. And that's kind of what my products are meant to do.
Yep. And not to go through everything in your product line, but obviously the pre-workout definitely different from a lot of the heavy cut standard ones. Again, there's no citrulline. You get 250 megs of calf. Just good overall. It seems like it's more like energy focus based and maybe less on the
Mhm.
pump. If I can kind of put that in that stereotype, or
So that's where, again, I wanted to take people down like a different train, let's call it, or
yeah,
put them on a different rail car. So if you look at the electrolytes in the formula, I'm a big electrolyte guy, a big hydration guy, and I think a lot of
sure.
people enter the gym dehydrated. There's 900 milligrams yield of sodium, 500 milligrams yield of potassium in there. That
Yep.
combined with like the nitrosogene, and there's another ingredient in there called L-ornithine alpha ketoglutarate,
Okay.
which through some processes in the body converts to arginine, kind of similar to what citrulline does. People report that they get a hell of a pump out of it, even though there's no citrulline, none of that like glycerol, the typical stuff that you would be. Part of the reason for that too is it's a relatively large scoop size. But what
Okay.
I've noticed from a lot of people and even myself, when I would get like tons of citrulline, tons of glycerol to try to get that pump, my stomach would almost be like irritated either through the workout or I'm like running to the bathroom. And like that's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
something I want part of my workout routine. So that was a lot of my stuff. I really focus on the gut. How does it impact your gut? Because I think that'll mess up your day too. Is having a poor experience with your stomach hurting, gas, bloating, things like that.
And plus, like you said, a good amount of sodium, where there's a lot of people that are anti-sodium, but they don't
Mhm.
understand if your sodium is not properly balanced or even a little bit higher, forcing the water into the muscles, the intracellular, then you're not going to get the pumps. So,
Yeah. I think especially when you get into people who start living an active lifestyle and probably for yourself as well. So, let's say you're probably especially a bodybuilder. All right, so now I went from eating McDonald's 3 days a week to in TV dinners and things like that, but now I'm on a healthy kick.
yep.
Well, my sodium was probably like 10 grams a day doing whatever my lifestyle was before, which like that's why people have this negative association with sodium. They're not actually putting salt on anything, but everything they're eating is crazy high in sodium. To
Yep.
now, like, okay, I got my steamed broccoli, I've got my tilapia, I've got my rice. Now I've got zero sodium. And you're like, oh
Exactly.
my God, I have cramps in the gym. I have no energy. My mind is fatigued. And you're like, what is that? And the last thing you think of is salt. Like,
Yes.
why is that? Why is that going to help me? And you go through that healthy lifestyle change and you don't realize those minerals missing, man, that will mess you up real quick.
Yeah, I know. And everybody, that's it with the bodybuilders. They're so anti,
Hmm.
ingredients and marinades and everything, but I'm the opposite. Like I go ahead and use sea salt. I'll use some Goya just to get that sodium. And as I get
Oh
closer
yeah.
to the show, I'll take it out. But for now, I mean, let me feel good.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely.
So when you're formulating products, I guess who's your test audience? Is it you, or do you have like a little group of friends? You say, "Hey guys, test this out for me. Walk me through, like, the R&D."
A lot of it is me, so I'll either buy raw ingredients and actually that's a lot of my process too. Is I like to see what I'm dealing with in the beginning, and what I mean by that is, a lot of these ingredients are just they don't taste good. So you've got
Yep.
something that's an extract of something, it tastes like so astringent and things like that. So if you know right up front, this is the approach I like to take, anyways. Right up front, all right, I've got this mixture. This is my pre workout or whatever it might be. I'm consuming this. And I'm looking for the product experience, one, but two, all right, so this has a huge tone of something acid or whatever. So
Like I
what
say, lion's
flavors?
mane. Like lion's
Yeah,
mane is like
like
my
earthy
kryptonite.
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, okay, I've got this huge earthy profile, and I think ahead, like, okay, I do all natural flavors, no dyes, no artificial anything. So that's a
Okay.
challenge in itself, like flavoring, because it's not as intensive flavoring. But like, what am I dealing? What do I know I'm going to be dealing with? Like going ahead, like let's say I had this real earthy thing. Well, it's probably not going to taste like bubble gum when I'm finished. Like you can't have
Sure.
bubble gum with this earthy aftertaste. So I'll purposely do that for myself. But when it comes to like um, the aspects of how do I test something. I'll get the raw ingredients. I'll either work with trademark ingredient direct people directly, or get them from my manufacturer or whatever. And internally, I'll make kind of all sorts of different variations of things. I might try ingredients at different levels,
Okay.
because not always like more of something is better. I like to try to emphasize in a lot of cases. And I know a lot of people want to go higher and higher and higher on some of these ingredients, but some of them like
Yep.
kind of you don't really know how they interact and like what's a good balance of like certain things. You might not want to max out every single ingredient when you get to a formula that's either too strong, or you start getting anxiety or some kind of you know
Yep.
effect like that. But that's what I'll do. And I take a long time. Like I've been advertising now for probably eh, 8, 9 months. Like, hey, Electrolyte V2 is coming, and now I'm to the point where I'm flavoring. So the formula is dead set. I'm basically
Okay.
not changing it. But the flavor is a challenge, and I kind of knew that going in. I'm going to struggle with it. There's some of these kind of weird sour notes to it that I'm trying to overcome right now. But
Okay.
like that's an example of what I'm going through at this instant as I'm reformulating the Electrolyte formula right now, and it's just that the flavor process. So that'll take me either developing a product or kind of revising one. I bet close to a year to do something.
Is the sour that bad that you can't call it sour grape, sour gummy, sour whatever? Or
It's like that, and people will be like, "Oh, just go with the sour gummy." It's like a sour, but like in a, "Hey, this is spoiled bad sour," not a,
oh,
"Hey,
okay, all
this is
right.
a sour candy sour." Yeah.
No, and it's tough because I'll talk about the pre-workouts because I'm old school. So for me, it's more of the efficacy of the product
Hmm.
and less on the flavor.
Sure.
Okay. But obviously with something like a greens formula, something like a BCAA, or maybe like you're saying the electrolyte formula, it's very important. And it's kind of hard finding that paradigm of, like, okay, I want to make a pre-workout with lion's mane. You can expect it to be bad, but with our flavor houses being so well knowledgeable and schooled, should we be able to find that right flavor? So
Hmm.
it's, finding that balance, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's the big picture for you, Matt? I mean, do you hopefully want to grow big and leave your day job and run this full time, or is this still going to be kind of a, side money, mad money type of thing? Or
Yeah, I mean that's what I've been working towards. So I'm up to 6 products now. I've been slowly growing. I do pretty much no advertising, so everything is just through my Instagram or whatever, and people who catch
yep,
on. And basically, I do everything word of mouth. So that's how I've kind of chose to grow, and it's worked well for me. And I think I attract the right people that way too. So the people I get who are my customers, they kind of get it. Like, oh,
yep.
I know why I'm following this guy. I understand what he's putting in there. I know what type of benefits he's offering me versus some of the other products out there. But yeah, long term, I think I'd like to do this full time. It's something I like tinkering with products and
Sure.
coming out with new things and entering into new categories. So I'm taking the slow and steady approach, and that's kind of what I'm sticking with.
So as a business owner, obviously you mentioned you're coming out with V2 of the electrolytes.
Mhm.
What makes you want to do a new version? Was it because you saw a new ingredient you thought would go well, or is it just keeping up with the Joneses, coming out with a version 2, 3 every year? Or
It's not so much that I want to change it just because keeping up with the Joneses and things like that, but I'll learn. I'm like, if people follow me on Instagram or something, I'm constantly like learning stuff. And that's part of like what I like to do too, is like share what I learn to people.
yep,
So like I talk about things I don't even sell. I had a post today about like Shilajit. Well, I don't have a product with Shilajit in it, but hey, here's some stuff I find interesting about it. Or I'll come across a study like yesterday. I found one on kefir. Like I'm real big on gut health and things you can
sure,
do. And hey, here you don't got to buy something for me. Here's this thing that you can go to your grocery store. They sell right in the refrigerated section. Here's all the data behind it on how it might be able to help you. So those are some things I like to advocate. Healthy living and benefits you can get from that as well. But I'll come across something and it'll make me really go like, wow, that's interesting. I've never looked at it from that perspective before. How might I utilize that maybe later? So I got, tabs of stuff on my computer where I've got all this stuff like kind of shoved to the side. And eventually maybe I find this like uh connector, like, oh, this is how these things are connected and
sure.
I can do something real interesting with this. And that's when I'll start thinking about maybe it's time that I change the concept of what this product is to something else completely. So when I'm coming out with the V2, it's probably like, especially with this electrolyte product, it's a totally different product.
Okay.
There's nearly no ingredients that are shared besides like the minerals. It's extraordinarily different.
So you're gonna phase out the original, or still keep that in queue?
I'm gonna phase it out slowly and then phase
Okay.
this one in.
So obviously, anybody listening to this, if you really like V1, stock up now because you don't know how long it's gonna be around.
Yeah.
So
I'm
that's
getting a
what
lot of people. It's funny, like the second I said, I'm changing this, and they're like, no, 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 you can't change that. You can't change that.
So I have to admit too, with you, like anybody that follows your Instagram, obviously you talk about the products, but I love the fact you have these little blocks. I'll call them blocks, obviously little squares of an ingredient, like you said, whether you're using it or not, because it's a lot of education on there. But
Mhm.
it's not. I mean, it's scientific, but it's good for the layman's person too, which I can appreciate.
Yeah, I try to like make it like what are some key points, and like I don't even post like, oh, here's like 50,000 studies that you can read through, but here's some like things you can like statements about
Sure.
it. Here's what this research is kind of generally associated with it, and I'll do it in kind of a, we'll call it like an artsy way. And then what I hope is someone goes, oh, well, I've never even heard of that before. I'm gonna punch that thing into Google and, oh, but here's some product I found that
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I had an email today from a customer because I have like a blog section on my website too. I had this blog I wrote about paraxanthine.
Oh
So
yeah,
that's
I saw that.
that caffeine metabolite. So I had somebody email me this morning. Hey, what product do you have on your website, or what product do you sell has paraxanthine in it? Because you're assuming if I wrote something about it, I'm selling you something. I'm like, no,
Yes.
I don't have a product. I only use this type of caffeine in mine. But here's who does sell this product, and I listed out Muscle Tech. They currently have the thing, and I said,
Yep.
hey, if you're interested in it, here's where you can find it.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say that because Muscle Tech has the exclusive. I don't know how long the patent's for,
Hmm.
but then there's also an energy drink that's
Oh, right, right.
outside that uses it too, and I forget what it is, but I think it's a really interesting product. I had Sean Connolly, I think his name was, on the show last year discussing about paraxanthine. It's a really
Mhm.
interesting product.
Yeah, it's kind of like I mean, caffeine in itself is a nootropic, but I almost like to call it like the nootropic caffeine. It's just like
It's
more
cleaner.
sensory. Yeah, it's a weird. I don't even know how to describe it. Clean's a good way to say it, but like when you say that to somebody, you're like, what does clean mean? But I feel like if you take the product for the first time, we're like, oh, okay, I get what you're saying.
Have you personally tried paraxanthine?
Yep, yeah. The
Okay.
through the Muscle Tech product. So I know Dan
Yep.
Grassa over at Muscle Tech. So we've talked a
Okay.
bunch, and I've used his what is it? Euphoric? Yeah,
It's
Euphoric's their pre-workout.
is euphoric and then have a I don't know if it's burn or burn IQ. I think it's burn IQ, which is the
Yep.
fat burner that has it in it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, those are
Yeah.
fun products though.
So, but Matt, we actually have, you don't see it, but I have comments here. So there's a gentleman, John King, who follows me, and he probably follows you as well. He's saying Sleep Aid is awesome, really well done, and only one I will use. But then he also says pumps are nutty for me with Aura. So I just want to
Oh,
share that with
nice.
you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to, like, I get those it's good to hear that too, because like I said, I'll make a lot of this stuff for myself.
Hmm.
And because I know I've said this to a couple people before too, and you're probably the same way with certain things where you'll read something and you know the science behind it, and you'll take it and maybe even take a combination of stuff and you'll go, yeah, 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 that's working. But then sometimes you're like, did I just like placebo myself, or is that actually working?
Yes.
But it's good to hear from customers that are like, man, I love this. I used to take X and now I'm taking, your stuff. And
Yep.
it's cool as a business owner. You've created something people associate with it. I like that a lot.
And that's what we need more of. Not to get too far on a tangent, but in today's society, people are more prone to shout the negatives
Mhm.
versus just giving you a high five on whatever it is, whether it's a restaurant, good service,
Oh
good
yeah.
product, whatever it is.
Yeah. I try to, even on like what I don't go over on different people's pages and do negative comments and this and that. I just stay in my own zone. And if I
Yep.
see something cool, oh man, that was a cool, way you use that product. Or yeah, I'm not about like you said, there's too much negativity. I'm not about that at all.
That's it. So Matt, you've got the Electrolytes version 2. Anything else that's in R&D or anything people can look forward to
I
6, 8
do.
months?
I have we'll call it a gut health type product that I've been working on for quite a while. It's capsule based.
Nice.
That's probably the best way to explain it. That's probably going to be either launching with it or even maybe a little bit before it, depending on how long it takes me to figure the flavoring out. But those are the two main things I'm working on right now. I kind of, as I reorder and months go by, I do check in because, like I said, I have tabs of stuff of I'll look at the greens and kind of peer at that and go, am I satisfied with where that's at? Have I learned something? Do I want to swap out something? And that I go through that probably once every couple months I kind of revisit everything and say, do I want to keep that? Do I change something? So I'm not opposed to, down the road doing a change.
Well, it's the engineer in you. It's like it's not broken, but how can I make it better?
Yeah. I will say that's the downside with uh, doing some kind of product certification like BSCG. Now
Yep.
they do product testing on the entire product. They match every single product, but every single batch of every product. But one of the things they also do is they verify your entire supply chain. So
Oh
they'll look at
wow.
every single ingredient in the formula. This is who makes that ingredient. This is where it's from. These are all their COAs. This is this ingredient. This is where they're from. These are all their COAs. So they know your entire product makeup, where everything's from. So if you start changing things out, that's not a formula. That's not the same formula anymore. You're repaying to recertify an entire new
Oh
product.
yeah. Okay.
So, that's quite costly to establish that first product setup. But again, like if I see value in it, I think it's worth it. I'll go ahead and do it.
Got it. So Matt, it's truly been an honor and a pleasure tonight. I mean, where can people learn about you, the products, website? Give everybody all the different avenues.
Yeah, pretty much everything is Soul Performance Nutrition. So that's on Instagram, YouTube, the website again, Soul Performance Nutrition. I have an Instagram account, but I'd never post anything on there, so there's no point in following that one. But pretty much everything is Soul Performance Nutrition. Let's see, YouTube, Instagram, website. Yeah, those are all the places.
It's funny because at first I typed in Soul Performance, forgot they had the nutrition, and I
Mm.
got brought to like a high performance auto parts company, and I'm like, this
Ah,
isn't it.
that's pretty funny.
So, but Matt, again, it's truly been a pleasure. Thank you so much. We look forward to your success, continued growth, and for everybody listening, thank you so much. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment, and have yourself a great rest of the week. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.